Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Carlos Lopez, who's a senior advisor with MAH Financial Services, and we'll be talking about innovative wealth management. Carlos, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. So glad to be here. So I kind of wanted to just, start off saying that I'm very grateful to be on the show with you today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you because I'm kind of like a wordsmith. I love how people phrase words and how, products and services are worded. And I love the word innovation. So when you are going to talk about an innovative wealth management strategy, that sounds powerful to me because it sounds like it's fresh and new. But before we dive into that, give us a little bit of your story and your background and how did you get into the financial services industry?
Actually, it was by accident, Mike. I was a professor at the University of Texas here in Edinburgh, Texas. I actually taught English. I taught composition, rhetoric, and I taught an intro to literature class in Salamanca, Spain, abroad in Europe every summer. And it was a very fun experience, a very profound experience, getting to travel and experience the world like that. But coming into my 7th or 8th year, I had a fender bender, so I went to go talk to my relatives that are agents with Allstate. And while I was there, I ended up knowing several of the people that were working on having their services. They were there to see my cousins who actually owned the business, and I knew all three of them. So when they left, my cousin's like, "Hey, Carlos, have you ever thought about doing insurance?" And I said, "No, not really." About the same time, it happened that my parents, my mother and father, my mom's 88 now and my dad's 80, both veterans. My mom working in the education, my dad working for the government and USDA. They had a predatory financial advisor that kind of took advantage of them. So it was kind of a calling to me, to say, maybe there's a change here that I can make where I can help bring my education background and my experience to financials or financial services. So out of the grace of God, I got an opportunity to work with my associate Marc Hernandez at MAH Financials, and I was it was a great mentor to me. I pivoted from education at the university. I skipped the Allstate experience, and I went with Marc, who's been an advisor for 40 plus years.
Isn't it interesting that, and I love that story that so many times it's like, it's all for family. I'm taking care of my family. But isn't it interesting that your family members that were in the business, they were in the business for many years. You knew that they were what they did, but the timing wasn't right. You had to get that teaching and you had to get that, experience. And then when some circumstances happen, and then when your family came alongside, and then they had to ask and they saw something in you. So I think that is just so powerful when you can speak into and educate and teach people, especially these days, young people, because we can see their future.
Exactly. And coming into the university as a professor, I didn't know how my pension worked with TRS. I didn't know that I could supplement it with a 403B or 457 plan. I didn't know that I could, invest that into a Roth, with different accounts and be aggressive because I was 28. I believe I was 28 when I first started teaching there. So I let years of compound interest and opportunity, I let it go. I didn't know any better. There wasn't anybody I could go to. Nobody came to the university and said, "Look, you just started your job. You just signed up your contract, and now you can probably, you have options. You can actually start something." And I was single. So I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time to myself. I had a lot of time to learn. I had a lot of time to the time horizon, right? Compound interest, putting money in, letting it work for me. Now I'm a married man. I have a son and I have it's a different scenario now, but I could have started something for about 8 to 10 years and built something. So where I'm going with this, Mike, is that we started something innovative. You talked about innovation at the beginning of this interview and whatnot. And we started, Marc and I at MAH Financial Services, coming from an education background, we had a conversation. And the conversation was, how can we educate? How can we serve the underserved?
Yeah.
How can we serve the underserved? Well, who is the underserved, right? That's basically every American out there that's starting off in the workforce, or even if they've been in the workforce for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So
Now, do you feel like the underserved, air quotes, is because they don't have two nickels to rub together, and traditional financial advising firms only want people that have a nice chunk of change? And then also, if they sign up for that 401k, a typical financial advisor, they don't get paid giving advice on how to structure 401k. So they actually just ignore those people. So is that where the underserved comes from?
yes, any American in the workforce just starting off
Mhm.
the first day, whether they have a 401k, they have education background like myself, they're working for the state, they have options to do a 457 or 403b, government officials with the thrift savings plan. Anybody in the workforce, we like to have a conversation with them, and we built a holistic wealth management planning service for them that's very affordable, very, very affordable. It's per household. So if a household has a husband and a wife or spouses, things like that, then both of them are covered under this plan. And this plan helps every individual from day one when they start working to build their wealth, to keep all their financial goals on track. So it's pretty awesome. So we're trying to build millionaires, you know.
Nice. And
hmm
it sounds to me like you are kind of giving that value added approach, educational approach, because you're not looking for people with $8 trillion. Let me show you where to put that money. You're looking at people going, look, down the road, we want you to become successful and that millionaire. You're starting today with very little, but let me teach you, let me guide you. And then that creates powerful relationships.
Exactly. And think about a timeline in your mind's eye. A person is 20, or think about yourself, Mike. When did you start working? When you started the workforce? How old were you?
Well, I mean, I got my first job at 16 working at McDonald's in the summertime. But then you graduate college and you get your first job, and that's like what, 21, 22.
Yeah, yeah. And at that point, were you financially savvy? Did you know what you were doing
Oh, of course
financially?
not. Yeah,
Right.
no. And see, I think that's the problem. And I'm from the outside listening in to you say this, and you're seeing this in the industry going, this is a fresh approach, because I can tell you from my personal experience, one of my daughters graduated college, got a job teaching as a professor at a university, and she
Mm.
calls me up one day and goes, "Hey, I'm filling out all these papers and HR and 401k, and what should I do?" And I said, "Well, listen, as you know, I've interviewed hundreds of financial advisors, and let's just go ahead and not do the 401k. Let's take the same amount of money that you were going to put into that and put that into a nice Roth, because at 22 years old, you've got many, many years to have that grow tax free." And I think that that's really important for people to realize. Another word you mentioned a second ago, options. So why is it important, and not stock options, but like different variety of options, but why is it important for people at the first day of work to have a good financial plan or someone guiding them?
Well, because the power of compound interest, the younger they start, the better
Yeah.
off. And we're allowed to make more mistakes when we're younger, right? If
Yep.
you make mistakes financially when you're 21, 22, 23, or whatever, it's fine. But once you have a family, once you're 40, 50, it's too late. Those
Yeah.
little mistakes can cost us immensely.
Yeah, you got less runway before the time you need to use the money for retirement. So yeah, that time, that compounding, I think that's huge. Talk about a few of the strategies that some young people can use to get on that right track and stay on the right track.
Well, something they can do is basically just, they have a paycheck. They can put a part of it, and they can automate a part of it to put into a financial
Mm,
instrument or something like that. That's going to build them. If you make $100, put $20 into the savings or some kind of financial instrument that's earning you interest, and the rest of it you could spend it any way you want. But do that consistently. It all comes down to being consistent. And from our standpoint, as financial advisors, we see everybody. So we do our due diligence. We provide a questionnaire or fact finder to find out what their story is. And as time changes with this holistic wealth management planning service, we're there to make changes or to help them update their plan. Let me give you an example. We had talked to a 28-year-old nurse, and she already had changed job 3 or 4 times. moving or job hopping from one clinic to a hospital and things like that. So she had, I think, 4 or 5 401ks from previous employers, and they were just
Wow.
kind of out there. And she was in the grind of work. She was focusing on her craft, working very long hours. So what we did for her is, hey, you've moved jobs several times. Let's consolidate those 401ks. Let's assess your risk tolerance, see where you're at right now, and consolidate them. Put them together in an IRA. That way, you have them all together. You know where you stand. We'll put it to work for you, in the based on your criteria of your risk tolerance and things like that. And it took a little bit of work, but we got everything together. And now she's organized. Now she has a plan. Now,
Hmm.
I didn't talk about this too, but part of our planning service, besides that we're getting them early, we also have a tracking software, an algorithm, a mathematical algorithm that, based on the risk tolerance, we're able to attach that algorithm to any 401k out there in America, whether it's Empower, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab. It can also attach to through a savings plan or a 403b or 457. Based on the risk tolerance, it tells them how to make changes when the markets are working, when the markets are up, markets are down. Basically, it sends them notifications and sends the financial advisors, us, notifications when the markets are maybe be below or above their risk tolerance. We're there to make changes to keep their financial goals on track. So it limits their liability when the markets get bad, and it helps them not leave any money on the table, so to speak. When the markets are up, they can participate in those gains when the markets are bullish. So what happens in a span of time, they optimize the returns within their plans. So it's
And
pretty cool.
it keeps them on track because they have clarity of where, because it's kind of like, where do you want to be in life down the road? And it's like, I don't know. Or where are you at right now? Let's clarify where you are now. Let's clarify where you want to be. Well, in what you described there, let's talk financially. Where are you at financially? And in the example you gave, I've got multiple 401ks and a buck here and a buck there. Let's get all that down on paper so we know what we got. Where do you want to be down the road 10, 20, 30, 40 years? And then let's put a plan into action. And I love another word you mentioned, which is automatic. And it reminded me of a book I read, I don't know, 20 years ago by David Bach called The Automatic Millionaire. And that's one of the things I remember him talking about is, look, set it and forget it. You want to
Hmm.
get your job contributing to something wise so that you don't have the temptation to spend the money for fun, frivolous things. So it brings me to a question that I was thinking about as you were describing that. It's kind of like as people, get a little bit of a promotion or do better at work, as their income rises, so does their lifestyle. So the temptation is go, oh, I got a raise of $400 a month. And now all of a sudden they went and bought a new car. How do you help someone avoid that lifestyle creep and make sure that they stay on track?
Well, we basically, we kind of come up with a financial plan that you have to write on the one side you get a legal pad, right? And on one side you
Hmm.
write all the things that you have to pay for now, dispensable, income, all the different things that you have. But the ones if you don't pay them, they turn them off, or take it away, then you have some problems there. So
Hmm.
basically, it comes down just to getting a plan, getting organized, getting a fact finder for them, finding out what their story is, and making adjustments as time goes. You can't really force anybody to do those things, but I think when you put the pen to the paper and they see where they can be in the future, if they stick to a plan and be consistent, then it's pretty magical. And one little exercise that I do, it's free. You can go on to any website that has a Roth calculator on it. You can put in, how much money they want to start off with, how much they're going to contribute monthly, what amount of interest, usually 6 to 7%. And then you put started at age 22, 25, 30, whatever. And then at age 60 or age 65, and they'll tell them how much money they'll have, how much
Yeah.
compound interest they'll earn. And once they see that, they start, oh, let me try, let me check. Give me the. They want to have control. They want to say, what
Yeah.
happens if I put more money? What happens if I retire earlier than 65? What if I want to retire when I'm 57? What if I want to travel? Okay, well, that's going to take some more discipline and more
Yeah.
consistency. So we're gonna look at those things, and we're gonna try to keep our financial goals on track. Just like if you're working out at a gym and you have a trainer, if you have certain goals, you have to meet those. You have to be consistent, with your diet.
And working out, you might be allowed to have one cheat day every once in a while,
Sure, you
but
want to
not
take
every other day.
right.
So you might be able to be frivolous and blow a buck or two here and there to feel like you are living. You don't want to eat beans and rice your whole life just so that one day down the road you'll have some money, because who knows what will come, but you need to know what that looks like. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to eat ramen noodles and rice and beans all the time. You want a nice steak and some nice wine or something. But yeah, if you're consistent, mostly you're going to see results, and
Yeah.
it's awesome as an educator to see once you show them the numbers, once you talk to them, once you explain to them, how their 401k works, the match that the employer offers, and then putting on that tracking software. Once they see that's working and they see their money's going up and compounding. It's so gratifying as an educator to see them
Yeah. The
because
lights kind of
nobody,
go off in their eyes.
yes. And then it's pretty awesome because what happens next? Oh, talk to my coworker, talk to my family
Yep.
members. They don't
Yeah.
have that help. Everybody says the same thing. Even I do, probably even you do, Mike. What if I would have had help when I was 21 or when I
Yeah.
started in the workforce?
Well, it's like the old analogy, like, oh, it's a hot day. I wish I had a tree to give me shade. The best time to have planted that tree was 20 years ago,
20
but the
years
next
ago.
best time, today. You brought up something interesting, Carlos. I want to dive in on a little deeper on 401k. You said match. So I gave my example of what advice I gave to my daughter. Hey, do the Roth from day one. Don't do the regular, because her employer did not have an attractive match.
Right.
So do you advise your clients when to say yes or no to a 401k based on the match? So like if they could have 5% or 6% of their income matched, if you don't do the 401k at all, you do leave some money on the table. What is your advice in that direction?
If they get a match of 4%, 5%, 6%, whatever that is, contribute at least at that percentage. It's the
Okay.
only free
Yeah.
lunch you'll ever get in the
Yep.
financial world.
Yep.
That's it.
But
Anything
then
after
over
that,
past that,
Roth.
yeah, yeah, good. That's what I was thinking. But it's like some employers don't match at all, or it's
Mhm.
paltry. Like, oh, we're going to match 1%. Don't bother. But 4, 5, 6, that is free money. But
Free
don't
money.
contribute 15 or 20% of your salary to the 401k, because they're only matching that certain percent. So then you kick the whatever extra you want to do into your
Mhm.
Roth. That's a good distinction.
And yeah, and it's important, watch the news right now, or we kind of know you can use Chat GPT or Gemini or Google, anything like that. You can find out that in our country we're in a big heap of debt right now. So I think the government will mitigate those taxes those our debt by raising taxes in the
Yep.
future.
Yeah.
So how do we work with our clients to say, you might want to look into more after tax, like a
Yeah.
Roth. You want to look into putting
Yeah.
more money into that, or all of your money into that, as much as you can, as long, uh, within the parameters. That way, when you get to that retirement age, you're going to have some income stream that's not subject to RMD.
Yes.
You have tax-free money. If taxes go up, you're already covered. We have the tracking software to optimize the amount that you make in there. So so that's a very good thing, as opposed to just getting a target fund and just letting it ride
Yeah.
for the duration. Leaving money on the table and not making that compound interest. So we basically have it's holistic. We have all the angles covered for our clients that want to get ahead. And we are happy to serve the underserved with all our capacity. I actually been reading it's Holy Week this week, and I read Proverbs 15:22. It says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many
Mhm.
advisors, they succeed.
Yeah.
So if I think good counsel, if finding a good
Yeah.
financial advisor that cares about their clients, and takes care of them from day one at
Yep.
work, I think it could turn out to be a very beautiful thing.
And guess what? Those multitude of counselors do not include ChatGPT and Google. Talk to people that have experience. And I'm saying that funny, but people think that they just go, oh, I'm going to use AI, or I'm going to use, and that's not always the best. It might bring up some good questions to bring to your advisor to say, how would this fit for me? But
Sure.
let's transition to a thing that I think people these days are familiar with, FOMO. When you're talking about people starting off their career, they're looking it forward 20, 30, 40 years, and they don't want to miss out on some big swing opportunities like they hear in crypto or AI or whatever investment. How do you put together a financial plan that helps people have a good balanced approach without having that fear of missing out on some of those big swings that could actually be big risk?
Well, first and foremost, I just tell them, I still see some of my former students that are now in their 20s, late 20s and early 30s. And I taught probably over 2,500 students in the time that I was at the university. And a lot of times they come at me and they're like, hey, they ask questions and they're very excited about what's new out there in crypto. And I think because they watch a lot of social media, they think that they can hit home runs. They could say, I'm going to invest a certain amount of money and I'm going to become a millionaire. I tell them, that may happen. The likelihood of that happening may not be as high as you might think. Otherwise, everybody would be doing that. Yeah. So let's focus. Let's get grounded. Let's build a foundation like a home. You want to make sure you have a good base and build something very substantial and very strong. And that's going to come down to what you have at your work, your 401k, your 457, your pension, all these TSP. Let's focus and let's build that. Anything left over after that, we can look at alternatives but you cannot, you have to focus on those things for your future, because that is your future. That's what you're working for. That's what you went to school for, is your craft, your work. And let's get a plan and set that up. Anything extra that you have, we can look into some alternatives. And if it's crypto, it's crypto. If it's an IPO that might come out, I think people are talking about SpaceX right now. There might be an IPO coming out sometime. I mean, I don't know. Let's just focus on the hard-earned money.
Anything that seems to be trendy, and I'm going to jump on that. It takes a little bit of level-headed guidance. So talk a little bit about what role that financial advisor can play in guiding that to kind of temper some of that, but yet still let you participate in some of the exciting things. You just need someone that has been there, done that, and can guide you, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're watching the markets every single day. We have a lot of different financial advisors. We're we have a lot of other friends of ours that are in the industry, and we talk about these certain things, but we don't want our clients to miss out on anything that they could potentially get that's going to benefit them. But, we want to keep it simple. We want to make sure that we do our due diligence that first and foremost comes to a plan, the plan to keep their financial goals on track. In any way that it can be. It might be life insurance, a tax favorable life insurance like an IUL, if they have kids or for themselves. Indemnity insurance if they're over 40, because, you look at your family history and see if you have something going on, with hypertension, diabetes, cancer. We actually live in an area where there's a lot of diabetes and hypertension and things like that. So you want to have all those things covered before you look into anything that's kind of shiny. In other words, get your base set first. You don't want to be wealthy, but then or ultra wealthy, and then you have a situation where you don't have any coverage for long-term care in the future, things like that can obliterate your retirement or nest egg. So just getting a good understanding of what's most important first, and then anything after that, it's and I'm saying this because I'm thinking about one phrase that I was told one time when I first started in the business, is that people spend more time focusing or planning for a vacation than they do with their finances.
I've heard that. Yeah, you plan all of that stuff, and then you get there, then it's gone, but then your finances, it's like, oh yeah, I signed some papers at work, but that can be. But I think that it kind of gets back down to having that guide that helps you educate you on what to expect, and kind of go, hey, you know what? You got plenty of time, so we don't want to jump on all of those trends, but let's have a little percentage where we can participate in that, just so you can see what that's like. We don't want to, have you just in, one specific category, but when someone can sit down with you and articulate and clarify your goals and give you that plan to be there, give you that accountability, give you that software from that holistic approach like what you guys provide, is just powerful. So Carlos, this has been really helpful to learn how you're serving your underserved, the people out there that have been ignored, and that's powerful process. If someone is listening to that going, hey, what can you do for me? What do you see in my financial picture? What's the best way that someone can learn more and then also reach out and connect with you?
Sure. They can visit our website at www.mahfinancial.biz. And on that, they could schedule an appointment. We have many podcasts over different variety of topics. It's pretty interesting and it's fun. We've had a lot of good feedback from our clients saying that they enjoyed them. They can also call us, Mike, at 956-994-0407.
Perfect. Well, Carlos, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.